I'm Pete Spivak, WJR, Traffic and Weather First.
Strong cold front headed our way Tuesday night. With it, rain and windy conditions. Behind it, much cooler air for Wednesday and Thursday. Fair to partly cloudy skies tonight, 58. Clouds will increase during the day tomorrow. Ahead of the front, breezy and unseasonably warm. Slight chance for a late day shower, 76. From the Weather Channel, I'm meteorologist Ken Boone on News Talk 760 WJR.
It's time for Lions Review. Presented by MGM Grand Detroit, the king of sportsbooks. Now here's the voice of the Detroit Lions, Dan Miller.
Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Lions Review, coming off a rough NFC North game against the Minnesota Vikings, and now looking ahead to a game against the Washington football team. But we are going to discuss that game that happened yesterday. Mike O'Hara alongside. You'll hear from Matthew Stafford coming up a little bit later in the show, and the head coach, Matt Patricia, as well. Michael, at some point during yesterday's game, I turned to my colleague, Lomas Brown, my broadcast partner, and I said, Lomas, everything you knew you needed to do to win this game, you haven't done any of it. And I think that kind of describes where the Lions were yesterday. They knew they had to stop the run. They didn't do it. They knew they had to find some way to put some pressure on Cousins and create some sort of turnovers. They didn't do it. They had to capitalize on their own opportunities against a team that was good in the red zone. They didn't do it. They had to avoid turnovers. They didn't do it. Just all the basic tenets of winning football, they weren't able to accomplish in that game against Minnesota yesterday. And they got pretty thoroughly trucked when you give up 270-some yards of rushing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I know, Dan, we talked before the game at around noon, and I think we kind of said, what is their identity? Do they really have one yet? And here we are halfway through the season, one more game, and I still don't know from week to week exactly what kind of team the Detroit Lions are. Are they a finesse team, a power team, a team that takes advantage? Don't know yet. They haven't done any of that. And here we are at the halfway mark and 3-5 and really just treading water, basically.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how well they're treading the water. I think they're flailing at this point, and somebody needs to film a life raft. If you saw them treading, you would think there's a swimmer struggling out there. But there was a couple of games where they stopped the run, and in those games, all of a sudden, things started to look better, and they ran the football a little bit better. But I think to your point, and it's a word that's been thrown out often this year, consistency. There's no consistency of anything that they can hang their hat on. And, that's a tough way to define a football team. And it's no way to put together a winning football team. And that's what they're lacking right now is consistency. Can they run the ball? Well, the answer most of the time has been no. Offensively, I think they've left a lot out there. They haven't scored a lot. They've yesterday in the red zone, in the goal-to-go situations, not good. And then defensively, once again, not able to stop the run. As I said, a couple of games against Jacksonville and against Atlanta, they did a pretty good job, but did a really good job. But in this game yesterday, wow, did that come crashing down on them.
This is the halfway point in this season, and if you count the first two games, and they really played, if this makes any sense, 6 halves of football. I think that if there is such a thing as 6 halves, and only one of those, what I would say, would be the second half of the 2018 season, where they had consistently good run-stuffing defense and pretty good defensively overall. But the other 5, segments, if you want to call them that, no, you can't. You just can't look at them and say, yeah, you've really done a good job there. No, they haven't.
We refer to that as the Snacks Harrison era.
Yeah, right.
Because it's when he got here that all of a sudden that defense took off. Now, he couldn't keep it going, and they couldn't keep it going. But it was demonstrably different when he showed up and was playing well. But it just Mike, it's frustrating, and I hear it from the fans, and I know they're frustrated. And look, people look to the head coach for answers. I know in his head he's got better answers that he's given us, but he's not going to open us and tell us exactly what's going on right now with this football team. And I just, you need to find some way to get something good going. I don't care who you beat. This week it's a 2-win Washington team coming in. But I tell you what, that Washington team's got an identity. The identity is their defense. And they've built that thing. And that thing's pretty good. They're right up at the top of the league, top 3, I believe, in sacks. They will get after you and make your life miserable. And they're building something on that side of the ball.
Just the opposite in that regard to the Detroit Lions. What do they have? In 8 games, they have 11 sacks. That's 22 for the season. If you multiply it by 2, and who says you're going to get 11 in the next 8 games? You know, even the way that Minnesota ran the ball yesterday, you know, it's almost like they didn't have to work for it. It was like 22 carries for 206 yards for Dalvin Cook. The week before against the Green Bay Packers, he had 163 yards. Took him 30 carries.
Mm-hmm.
They just kind of skipped through them yesterday. You know, arm tackles, 10 men on the field on a 70-yard touchdown run, and we've beaten that to death. But let's beat it a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know, that's been a repeated problem with the Detroit Lions. I don't get that kind of things. I would rather have 12 men on the field, Dan.
I think that, Mike, is where you lose people. I think that's where people look at it and they say, you know, that's basic. And this is 2 weeks in a row that's happened. And that's where, you know, people look at it and it's not making sense. There's a void there. When you've got 10 men on the field and a guy runs for 70 yards, it just illuminates everything that's going on. And you know, this is lousy to have this conversation. Nobody takes any joy in having to talk about, you know, a football team playing like this, because you know how hard these guys work. You know what it means to them, but it's not adding up. And what it adds up to is a lot of frustration in a very difficult season. And I wish there was some sign that said to you, this is going to get better because of X.
You know,
I don't know what that X is.
I don't either. And the other thing about it is, and I've said this before, Dan, they failed to take advantage. The Minnesota Vikings yesterday playing without 3 of their quarterbacks, was it? Their pass rushers are all somewhere else, on either some other team or they're injured. They can't get to the quarterback, but they're able to stave off the Detroit Lions at every turn. And there was one exchange there at the end of the first half where the Lions get a touchdown, the 15-yard touchdown pass to Marvin Jones Jr. It's 13-10. There's a minute 19 left in the half.
Oh, killer!
Get to the break. You're down by 3. Make a game of it in the fourth. They go through them 87 yards on 6 plays.
Yeah,
87.
I asked the coach about that in the conversation that you're going to hear coming up. But Mike, I think that's a great thing to point out, because you go from a 3-point game to a 10-point game into the locker room. Momentum, which had been with Detroit, goes to Minnesota. And that is something that Matt Patricia, as again, you'll hear us talk about coming up in our conversation in just a couple of minutes. He really stresses that. He really stresses that end of the half period where you're setting the tone for that third quarter to open things up. And the tone was set by the Vikings.
And, you know, Dan, they get the touchdown, they get the kickoff deep, and Miles Killard, look, I think the special teams have been terrific the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
They play after play after play. Miles Killard drills him at the 13-yard line. Everybody's excited as they get, which isn't very excited. And you think, okay, they're going to get a stop, a 3-and-out or whatever, call timeout, get a chance to make something of it, and they don't.
No, they do not. And I want to your point, I want to look back at that drive, because you go from the 13-yard line, Dalvin Cook for 5, Kirk Cousins to Thielen for 8, then Cousins to Rudolph for 10, Cousins to Cook for 29, Cook for 13, and then Amir Abdullah, with everybody sleeping on the left side of the offensive formation, right side of the defense, straight down the sidelines, and nobody gets to him until he's inside the 1-yard line. And it was just that was disappointing, because they had fought their way out of a hole, and then boom, that hole just kind of caved in on them.
And that was really, to me, that was the ball game right there. Now maybe they had another little shot there in the early in the fourth quarter when they got a touchdown or a field goal. I forget what it was. Cut it
A
to
couple
two
block punts
scores.
gave him short
Yeah,
field.
right. And then on the very next play after, I guess it was the field goal, my mistake, the 70-yard touchdown run. You just see the wind go out of the team. And the one guy, I guess, who saw when I saw the video of it was Jamie Collins Sr. kind of waving his arm over there. Where's the other player? Where's the other player? Try this. Call timeout.
Yeah.
Who's going to yell at you?
Yeah, well, at that you see what the end result of it is, and it put them, obviously in a very different. That made it 27-10. At that point, it's a major problem, and you're fighting from behind, and it seems like that's been the case with this team all too often this year, is having to come from behind. So this conversation with our good friend Michael Harris has been brought to you by Comerica Bank. Experience full-service banking at Comerica Bank. Learn more at comerica.com. Mike and money go together, and that makes sense that Comerica would sponsor that segment. Let's take a break. We'll come right back. You'll hear from the head coach. We'll continue our discussion. Matthew Stafford a little bit later, and we'll look ahead to this game coming up with the Washington football team as well. Over under on how many times I'm going to say their former name, having grown up in that city. This is going to be a long week for me. I can tell you that right now. So we're going to have to try to figure that out. All right, let's take a break. We'll come right back. You'll hear from the head coach on the other side of this edition of Lions Review.
to more Lions Review. Presented by MGM Grand Detroit, the king of sportsbooks. Here's Dan Miller.
So here come the Vikings now with a 1st and 10 from their own 30. Looking to kill some clock. They give it to Dalvin Cook. Cook runs through a tackle, and there he goes. It's a foot race. 30, 20. They're not going to catch him. 10-5, end zone, touchdown. Dalvin Cook, 70 yards. You came in knowing that you had to stop him, and they haven't done it all day, and it was never more apparent than right there.
And then guess who he followed through the hole? C.J. Ham.
And he just gave him the ball to let him strike it.
He should have. And that should have been a key. Like I say, where C.J. goes at, that's where Dalvin's going at. He followed him right through the hole. 70 yards later, touchdown.
There it is, touchdown. With the Lions having 10 men on the field, I think first it was the play, and then it was the realization that there were only 10 guys out there, and that became problematic. All right, let us get to our conversation that we have with Lions head coach Matt Patricia today, brought to you by MGM Grand Detroit, the king of sports books. Had a chance to chat with him and just get his take on the game 24 hours after it had happened, having a chance to review the tape. And the one thing that he wanted to go back to was just fundamentals that did not show up when he looked at it.
Yeah, I definitely thought our fundamentals could have been better in this game, and something that we've done a good job of all year, or at least have improved on all year. I think from this standpoint, there was just some basics in there that we definitely we know we can do better.
I thought early on, key possessions, 3 of your first 4 times you had the ball, you get down to the red zone, but only 10 points to show for it. They're scoring meanwhile, and it has you playing from behind. You knew going in, they were really good down in that red area, and that kind of showed up early in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly we know that they were coming off a big win. They were going to have a lot of confidence. And I did think we moved the ball well. We were able to kind of get down into that red area, but you just saw how, their defense can tighten up, and they were able to, really kind of do a great job down there of keeping us out of the end zone. So, from that standpoint, it was a lot of what we saw on tape. They just executed a lot better than we did.
Yeah, and just to kind of amplify that for a second, I think part of the frustration comes, at least from watching the game, was that you were doing a lot of things well. Matthew hit on 16 straight passes. First half, you're running almost 5 yards a clip. There were a lot of good things that were happening, but in the end, it just didn't kind of translate into points.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought Matthew did a phenomenal job of leading the offense down the field, and certainly, Coach Bev did a great job of mixing the play calls. So from that standpoint, that was really good. And we all know we got to finish when we get down there, but, give Minnesota credit. Their defense stepped up when they had to.
They took away chunk plays, too. You only had 2 plays of 20 yards or more in the passing game, and that's kind of a calling card. You guys are very capable of getting those. How much pressure does it put on an offense when you have to kind of have these drives where it's smaller plays instead of being able to get them in big chunks here or there?
Well, certainly it puts a lot of, emphasis on execution for every single play. You got to really be diligent as far as that's concerned, moving the ball that way. And, like I said, give Minnesota credit. They did a great job of, keeping the safeties deep and playing some too high coverage and not allowing us to get the ball over, over their head, and then mixing in the pressures off of that and kind of keeping us off track. So from that standpoint, they did a good job defensively. We were able to, move the ball the way we had to. But like we said, we just got to finish off some of those drives better.
And then this is still a game in the third quarter and into the second half. And then the turnovers really hurt. Matthew has talked about those, and he put those on his shoulders. And that's what he does as a leader. And you know that you just at those critical moments, again, have to turn those into points. And if you're giving those opportunities back to the Vikings, it becomes very difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's things in the game that all of us, definitely could have done better, and it starts with me. But, I thought Matthew did a great job. He played extremely hard, and that's a tough defense to go against without any live practice reps, but I thought he did a phenomenal job with that. But even with all that said, we were able to get two punt blocks and give us a chance to get back in the game. And even in the fourth quarter, it was still a 2-score game. I think that's where, we just got to go out and continue to execute for all 60 minutes.
On Matthew's situation, before we leave the offense here for just a moment, he had to leave the game, went into protocol, was out of protocol. He's back at work today. And do you assume that this will now be a normal week for him?
Well, we try to go into every day hoping that it's going to be normal, but certainly, we don't know from any of those standpoints. It seems everything changes by the day, but certainly from his standpoint, he's doing great. I thought he did an outstanding job of preparing last week, and we're fortunate he came out of the game okay, and we're looking forward to get ready to go against Washington.
Yeah, that's definitely on me, putting normal and 2020 in the same thought. That just hasn't been the case pretty much anywhere, not just football or not just Detroit. Hey, hard to miss, Coach, that when you have had your best days, it has been when your defense has done a good job stopping the run. And that was problematic in this game, and it turned into a tough game. Just thoughts on what you saw and how Minnesota was able to get their running game going to that degree.
Yeah, I think, certainly it starts with Dalvin Cook. He's explosive and he's strong. He's powerful. I think, we know how good of a runner he is. We know that they block extremely well up front for him. But I think that he did an outstanding job of running through tackles and breaking a lot of tackles in situations, just the extra yards that he got after contact. I thought that was something that, he did an outstanding job, and we didn't do a good enough job of eliminating those plays.
A final thing on the defense, I thought that late drive in the first half was a big one, kind of swung momentum back their way. Certainly it was still a game in the second half, but that really is something that you put a focus on all the time with your football team, is that late time in the half that you want to go into the half with momentum, and instead it kind of swung the other way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a great job, great drive by them in the 2 minute. But, for us defensively, I think there's certainly things in there that we can do a lot better job of understanding the plays that were run against us and go out and execute better in those situations. We know that's a critical point in the game, especially when they have the ball to start the second half, and we got to go out and we got to perform better.
You mentioned it a moment ago. I don't know how many teams ever have had 3 block punts in 2 weeks back to back. It's the first time it's happened with the Lions since 1977. What is the key to that? How much of that is film room during the week and then discipline of the players on game day?
I would say it's a combination of all of it. It's really something we've been working on since training camp, and it's good to see that finally come through. Sometimes you always don't get the opportunities to put your block unit out there or be able to rush the punters. The punters in this league are so good, and they do such a great job of getting the ball off quickly that we just saw an opportunity. And, it took us a little bit longer to get to it than we wanted to. But when we did, just really, excited and happy for the players. They did a great job of executing in that moment.
Hey, final thing. You begin the second half of the season now, or start the third quarter, whichever way you want to look at it. This is a Washington team that will come in, again, much as we said about the Vikings. Different team, but their record isn't where they want it. But that defense, they've done a heck of a job building it. That you're going to have to deal with that on Sunday. This is a talented group coming in.
No doubt. I mean, it's the NFL. Every team is good every single week, and you got to get ready to go, and you got to prepare hard, and you got to go out and execute on Sundays. And that's just the reality of the NFL. And we know Washington's going to be ready to go. Coach Rivera does a great job with his group, and we know they're tough, and we know they're going to come out and they're going to give us their best shot on Sunday.
All right, there he is, Lions head coach Matt Patricia, talking about what happened yesterday in Minnesota and what could happen this week against the Washington football team as they get set to go. Mike, a lot of takeaways there. It just leaves you knowing that they got to get back to work. You really don't have a choice. I mean, you're only halfway through this season. You're 3-5, and people are at every level in this organization on the football side fighting for jobs. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I think it really is. And still go back to, if you want, you go back to what the Fords said last December when they said that they wanted to be a playoff contender and play meaningful games in December. I mean, that's still, I think, hanging over everybody. And December's coming. We're 4 weeks away from December. It seems like a long way, but we're also a long way from playing meaningful games.
Well, and you got to set yourself up to play those meaningful games.
Absolutely.
I mean, you got to. That means you don't get there and then decide it's time to play meaningful games. You got to win the games before that to get there, to have that opportunity. And they have several games left, and possibly. I mean, I don't think the NFL knows yet how many playoff teams they're going to have. You have several games left where you could maybe put yourself into contention for one of those. But look, I'm going to smack myself.
Here, hold on.
Yeah, thank you. You take care of that.
Wake up.
Let me hit myself. Playoffs. I mean, no. This team's got to do some fundamental things just to win a game. I mean, maybe at 3-3, when you were looking at jumping to 4-3, you could start talking about some of the things that might be ahead. But I'm going to check myself right there, because this isn't about the postseason right now. This is about just doing some basic things that will allow them to win a game. And that starts next opportunity Sunday against against the Washington football team. So hold that thought, Mike. I got to go to break here. We're going to come right back. You'll hear from Matthew Stafford. Some more thoughts on yesterday's game. We'll look ahead as well. Stick with us.
Fox News, I'm Roger Stern. Attorney General William Barr has authorized the nation's U.S. attorneys to investigate credible allegations of voting irregularities if they would affect the outcome in a given state. But he's not saying there's been a problem. Meanwhile, Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer called on President Trump to stop accusing the other side of cheating.
Joe Biden won this election fair and square.
Talks on a coronavirus relief bill resumed in Congress for the first time since the election, with Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell trying to call the shots.
He is the one who wants to do a narrow coronavirus bill sometime during the lame duck session of Congress. It appears as though the opportunity for House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to do her own bigger version of a coronavirus bill may have evaporated.
Fox's Chad Pergram. America is listening to Fox News.
14 Mile is closed under I-75 until 6 p.m. Sunday. Maple Road or 13 Mile can be used as alternates. I-94 eastbound between the Willow Run Bypass and Belleville Road, the left 2 lanes are closed. Traffic getting by in the right lane only. I-696 westbound between Gratiot Avenue and Groesbeck, the left 2 lanes are closed until 10 a.m. Wednesday. I-75 northbound between Fort Street, Schaefer, and Clark Street, right lane closed until Tuesday at 3. I'm Kevin Sanderson, WJR Traffic and Weather First.
Strong cold front headed our way Tuesday night. With it, rain and windy conditions. Behind it, much cooler air for Wednesday and Thursday. Fair to partly cloudy skies tonight, 58. Clouds will increase during the day tomorrow. Ahead of the front, breezy and unseasonably warm. Slight chance for a late day shower, 76. From the Weather Channel, I'm meteorologist Ken Boone on News Talk 760 WJR.
to more Lions Review. Presented by MGM Grand Detroit, the king of sportsbooks. Here's Dan Miller.
Colquitt is ready. There's the snap. Punts away, blocked. That is blocked. It is free back inside the 20-yard line. Picked up by the Vikings, and they are going to be taken down at the 22-yard line. That's great work by Jalen Reeves-Maven on a punt that was blocked by Austin Bryant.
That's right.
The rookie, or not rookie, but back just activated this weekend. Austin Bryant makes the block.
That's my guy right there. I've been waiting to see Austin play. Love that guy right there. I'm glad he was able to get in there and make an impact play.
There's the snap to Colquitt. Punts away. They blocked it again. They got another block. It is picked up by the Lions. That is Cephas with it. Inside the 5 and down to the 4-yard line. There is a flag down, but another block by the Lions. That is 3 in 2 weeks. First time they have had punts, punts in consecutive games since 1977. Pretty incredible that they've been on that kind of run blocking punts. What are you laughing at?
That was my first year on the beat.
Oh, was it 1977?
Yeah, I think one of them was against the Baltimore Colts at the old stadium in Baltimore.
I went to Memorial Stadium many times to see the Colts play. They were a fun team back in the 70s with Burt Jones and Roger Carr and Lydell Mitchell. They were a fun team.
I covered that playoff game that goes to the post with the Raiders.
Yeah,
we won it in overtime. It was an amazing. That was my first playoff game covered in the NFL.
Yeah, there were some good Colt teams. They just had the unfortunate timing of being good with the Steelers around and the Raiders around in the AFC at that time, but. A lot of people probably not old enough to remember. Burt Jones was a really good player.
Yes, he was.
He just couldn't stay healthy, but a really, really terrific player with a rifle of an arm.
And a terrific team leader, too. He really led those players. He really did.
Yeah.
In fact,
teams to watch.
In fact, one of the elder Ursley fired the head coach in the locker room after the last preseason game. Burt Jones led a boycott, said the players weren't going to play the opener unless he rehired the coach. And they did.
Was that Marchibroda? Who was the coach of Colts?
Teddy Marchibroda, sure.
Marchibroda,
yeah. Played his college ball here at the University of Detroit. He was an assistant coach here for a while too.
Yeah, no, he was a heck of a coach, and like I said, those were good teams, fun teams to watch. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you an assignment. I'm going to play the Matthew Stafford interview, and I want you, when you come back, to tell me the road forward. Where does this team get better? How does this team salvage something out of the second half of this season? So put your thinking cap on, and you can come back, and you can be realistic about it and tell me where you think something can happen. And if you don't like the assignment when I come back, you can bow out. But I will put that on you, and we will go to our Matthew Stafford chat, brought to you by Henry Ford Health System, the official healthcare provider of the Detroit Lions. While Mike thinks and the smoke rises from his chimney, we will go to our chat with Matthew Stafford today, which we began by talking about a very difficult week last week in which he was in isolation because of the NFL's COVID-19 plan and the fact that he had a close encounter with somebody that had tested positive. That kept him away from his teammates, away from his family during a very difficult time when his daughter Hunter had fallen and had a concussion. Very difficult on his wife Kelly, his family, and difficult on Matthew. We talked about that and the game. Here's that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was different, than I'm used to. I was just trying to do what the NFL and what the Lions wanted me to do, which is, stay away and make sure that I was keeping everybody safe, and I did that. But once we got out on the field on Sunday, it was football. I felt good about it. I felt like we were moving the ball well. Obviously I had a couple bad turnovers that, changed the game, and I can't make those mistakes. But there's no excuse, as far as how my week was, and how I played.
Any parent, I think, felt for what you and Kelly were going through with your daughter. First and foremost, how's Hunter doing and how's Mom doing? Because I know it was a difficult week for both of them as well.
Yeah, Hunter's doing okay. Appreciate you asking. As tough as my week was, my wife had it, worse than I did. My kids as well, just stressful week for them. Extra, a couple set of hands not being able to be there. So that's, that's tough. But my wife's as tough as they come and as good as they come. So she's done a great job of, taking care of them and holding the fort down.
That's the most important thing. I can tell you as a 26-year veteran of this parenting thing who has 4 kids and a lot of emergency room visits, they're all horrifying. The blessed thing is when they turn out to be okay. And then I will promise you when they get older, these are the stories you will tell at the dinner table and you guys will talk about it. But in the moment, it's horrible. And I hope you felt the support that everybody had for your family, for Kelly, for Hunter, because it was truly there last week. To the football stuff, Matthew, early on in this game, it felt like there were some opportunities for you. 3 out of the first 4 drives into the red zone, but only 10 points to show for it. This is a defense, though, while some of the numbers aren't great, they're really tough in there. What did they do to make it difficult?
I think it's their scheme and their players, obviously. Like you said, they're, a team, if you look at raw numbers as far as total yards per game and some of that stuff, it's, not where you're accustomed to seeing the Minnesota Vikings, but you look at them on third down, you look at them in the red zone, and it's right where they normally are. And that's, top 5, top 10 in the league in both of those. So, we knew we were going to have a big challenge for us. We just didn't come away with points. Like you said, we got down to the 1-yard line. One time, obviously, I had 2 turnovers in the red zone that killed us. You think about that, that's possibly 21 points right there. And if I don't make those mistakes, then we got a way better chance at winning that game. So I got to make sure I don't make them.
And I know that's probably when you walk away from that game, that's what you're grinding on the most because that's what you put on yourself is those turnovers.
Yeah, absolutely. That just can't happen. And no excuse for them. Just got to make better decisions, make better throws, and at worst come away with 3 in those situations and keep us in it.
Well, Matthew, you left the game into protocol. You came out of protocol. Are you all good now, or are anticipating a normal week going forward for you?
Yeah, should be good to go and out there moving around with the guys.
All right, final thing. You move out of Washington now, and in terms of a defense, it doesn't get a whole lot easier. This is a really talented front that they built. The record doesn't look great, but you watch these guys on tape, they can play.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good front, good mix of young guys and a couple of veterans that are still making big-time plays. So we'll have our work cut out for us. Every game here, is a big one, and got to make sure we come out and play as well as we possibly can.
All right, there he is, Matthew Stafford, talking about the game yesterday and looking ahead to the game coming up against the Washington football team as we continue in this edition of Lions Review, coming off a loss to the Minnesota Vikings yesterday by a score of 34-20 and going into Washington where they've certainly had their ups and downs this year, mostly downs at 2-6. But as I said to Matthew, and we talked about earlier in this show, really talented defense. Chase Young, number of draft picks that they have put in. Montez Sweat, the 2 guys in the middle of that defense, really talented as well. All right, Michael, I gave you an assignment. What is the way forward for the Detroit Lions? Where can you see them? Should be the focus? Where can they get better? How do they salvage something out of a 3-5 season, which appeared for a minute like it was trending in the right direction, but recently is not?
I think one thing you might want to do, Dan, is settle the situation with the head coach. And if they're not going to make any, we go to this week-to-week thing. Is he saving his job this week? I think it'd be a time for whoever's in, whether it's Bob Quinn or the owner Sheila Hamp, to step up and tell the team, look, I'm not changing coaches in the middle of the season. We're going to ride it this way. And I think it would kind of settle things down. If players are looking over their shoulder or looking for a scapegoat, and I'm not saying they are, and it's not a huge thing, but at least it would give some clarity to what the situation is there, and then go forward. And this is more maybe of a basketball term or a hockey term, but shorten the bench a little bit. I mean, ride your guys, and you really do have a chance to make the playoffs. The next 3 games, I hate to say this, but they're winnable. Washington's 2-6, Carolina's lost 4 straight. Whoever comes after that, it's not Carolina. It's
one of those teams. I don't know.
One of those teams are 3-5 or 3-6 or something like that. You've got to take advantage of this. You've got to win home games. And you're really in sort of a playoff run then. If you can win 3, then you're 6-5 and you've got a chance. Look, it's nice to run the ball. The strength of your team, whatever you have on offense, is Matthew Stafford's arm. Play to your strength. Play to your passing game. And to me, that's the way to go. Do what you do best and do it that way. But I really would settle the coaching thing. I really would. I'd make some sort of statement.
Yeah, and this I also want to see, and you're starting to see it, I think, just DeAndre Swift really take over in that backfield. I think
I agree with that.
I want to know what he's got. I want to know And I think they need to know, okay, how strong are they at running back right now? And do they feel good coming back with DeAndre Swift, coming back with Kerryon Johnson? Do they feel like they need to add to that? I don't know that you look at Adrian Peterson is a long-term guy, but I think the question still remains, what is DeAndre Swift? Is he a guy that you want to get the ball in space? Is he a guy that you just hand it to? Is he a guy that's going to be an 18-touch-a-game guy? I think you want to find that out, and you need to try to just get some more consistency on offense. The strength of this team is going to be on offense. Clearly, it's not going to be on defense. So they're going to need to win by outscoring people, and they need to do a better job of that going forward. And that's really, to my way of thinking, based on what I've seen from this defense, as you said, over the last 3 years, for all but about 8 games, it's not anything they can lean on.
No, I'd agree with that. Just one other thing. You mentioned Adrian Peterson, and I think he's your short yardage back, but the last time I checked, 1st and 10 is not short yardage. Now, it might be a short gain, but that's to what you say, DeAndre Swift and Kerryon Johnson. Those are your young guys. Those are the fresh legs. Adrian Peterson can still make a play here and there. He's a good, tough guy and all that, but the young guys are the guys who are going to move the ball for you. That's been proven now over the last 4 or 5 weeks. Whether it's what they run, it's whether the blocking up front, whatever it is, it's not working right now with Adrian Peterson.
Well,
He's not getting satisfaction.
and you need a short yardage line to go with the short yardage back. I mean, a 3rd and goal from the 1 yesterday, he got blown up at the 5. I mean, they just got blown right off the ball, and that's difficult. Never had a chance. But no, we heard Austin Bryant clip a minute ago. I want to see what he can do. He had a couple of tackles in that game yesterday, had a block on the punt. I mean, you drafted this guy. I want to see what he's capable of doing. It was good to see Cephas in the game. I want to see what he can do and some of these other guys. But we'll see. We'll talk more about it on the other side. We got to fit in one more break. Then we'll come back, look ahead to the game, come up against the Washington football team on Sunday at Ford Field, which, of course, you'll hear right here on Lions Radio. So let's take one more break. Then we'll come right back with Mike's call of the game and close this out. Stick with us.
Back to more Lions Review. Presented by MGM Grand Detroit, the king of sportsbooks. Here's Dan Miller.
Stafford fakes the give, throws. It is caught. Marvin Jones spins out of a tackle at the 5, dives into the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions. Stafford to Jones, and they're right back in this game. 15 yards on the connection.
If I didn't know better, I'd say that sounded suspiciously like the call of the game, sponsored by Ring Central, official partner of the Detroit Lions. Ring Central, message, video, phone together. Mr. O'Hara, what was your call of the game?
Yeah, Dan, I mean, that was an important play at the time, as it turned out. They come right back and score, but it made it, I believe, 13-10. And
correct.
I think, I like Marvin Jones Jr. I think he's a good, tough, professional football player. And he plays his 60, 65 snaps every game. You don't see him dog it. He plays as hard in the first snap as he does on the last snap. I like him. I think he's got 46 career touchdown catches, 31 with the Detroit Lions. And right there was just that was Marvin Jones right there, available to make a play.
Yep, tough, very tough, and doesn't shy away from contact
at all.
For the extra yards, terrific on the 50-50 balls. Free agent at the end of the year, so we'll have to see what his future holds. But I would agree with you. He's been a very nice signing by Bob Quinn. Bob Quinn gets a lot of grief for the things that don't work out. That comes with a gig. That was one that definitely did work out.
No, absolutely. In fact, I think they had that in the hopper when Calvin Johnson told them finally that he was going to retire, and so they went right down to Cincinnati where he had played. And I think he had a 10-touchdown season down there for the Bengals, and really fit in immediately with the Detroit Lions. Had a little bit of injury trouble early, but has really been a good second receiver, I'd say, as good as they come at that position.
Yeah, I would agree. And you look at some of the red zone problems yesterday, and some of that. Not having Kenny Galladay in that game certainly makes a difference when you're down in that red zone, and you got a guy that can go up and use his body the way that Kenny can.
No, absolutely. He had 11 touchdowns last year, touchdown catches. That was the most in the National Football League. And I thought he was playing good ball till he got hurt too. He was hurt early. He's hurt again now. But get him back, and he would certainly help you make a run. But who knows when that's going to be?
Yep, and any kind of run that you're going to get on, and I'm not even talking about a run. I'm talking about just a quick sprint would be good by winning against the Washington football team, and then see where you can go from there. After that is Carolina, and then Houston.
Correct.
Friday, yes, tells us. But Michael, good stuff, my friend. We will look forward to reading you throughout the week on DetroitLions.com. That's going to do it for this edition of Lions Review. Thanks for joining us. Have a great week, everybody.